So I'm delighted now that we have Minister for Justice Helen McEntee here with us this morning, our local TD, very proud of our very own Meath TD, and just going to have a chat, I suppose, Helen, this morning, in relation to the remote working, COVID-19, and then this has brought in that the government, had to take measures to launch new legislation, I suppose, in remote working, which is going to, as we can see it, be part of the norm going forward and the new way of working. So would you just like to talk us through, I suppose, the main key areas in the new legislation?
Absolutely. Well, good morning, Lorraine, and good morning to everyone. We've huge numbers online, which is great. Just want to thank Paula as well, and all of the team in the chamber and everyone from the Leos. You're right. I think the last year really has forced everybody to move into this online type of work, where obviously we've been moving in that direction, but probably at a lot slower pace. So whether it's individual businesses, whether it's e-health, whether it's, even my own work online through the Oireachtas. So there had been a plan to start to introduce this remote and this flexible type working, but it's just been catapulted forward because of COVID-19. So there was a launch, I suppose, earlier on this year from the Taoiseach as to what we need to do next and how we can implement this type of flexible working as quickly as possible. There are a number of key elements to it, and some of it's progressing quickly and some of it will take a little bit longer. I think first and foremost is around the right to actually ask for remote working. So where people can, and obviously not all industries or sectors can work remotely, but where you have a legal right to actually request to be able to work from home, whether it's in a flexible way or whether it's 3 days or 2 days or 1 day. So that legislation is being worked through at the moment, and I think the intention is that we'll have it published in the third quarter of this year. Before that, though, there's body of work that's been done with the WRC around the right to disconnect. So the one thing is, and I don't know about everyone else, but I sometimes find you wake up and you're on the phone from the minute you get up, and then you're going to bed at 10 or 11 or whenever at night, and you're still answering emails. So you need to have that disconnect as well. So there's a code of conduct that's been worked through with the WRC, and actually at the end of this month, the intention is that the Taoiseach will sign it, which will give people a legal right where they feel that they're not getting that entitlement to be able to take a case and to bring that before the WRC. Of course, to make all of this work, it's not just about working at home and being entitled to it. Not everybody wants to work at home. And so the hub piece is a huge element of that. There's about 300 hubs across the country at the moment in different shapes and sizes and formats. So what we need to do is kind of a scoping exercise of what's currently there at the moment. Where do we need to develop more hubs? What will they look like? Where can they share spaces? Because I think it's really important that you have these shared spaces. And so that's going to feed into the work that Taoiseach is doing, so Leo, but also Heather Humphreys as part of a rural plan. So that's been worked through at the moment, and that scoping exercise is happening. There's obviously looking at, well, how will this work for me financially as well? So there's an element of what tax supports are there, and is that going to be part of the overall plan? You have a current figure at the moment, so if you have €3.20 that can be claimed or that can be provided through your employer, which doesn't include BIK, but where the employer doesn't pay it, this is something that can be claimed back in a tax deduction by the employee themselves. And for this year, what hadn't been included before, the cost of broadband, that's now going to be included as well. But we have to look and see, are there other costs, are there other supports that might be available? So that's been worked through at the moment. I think there's conversations happening between the Taoiseach, but also the Minister for Finance and Public Expenditure to see, can we include some new policies and new areas in this upcoming budget. So that's all being worked through at the moment. So there's lots of different elements to it, and then I'm very conscious I'm saying this, and I can, everybody's in online. Not everybody has great broadband, so we can talk about remote working all we want. If you can't connect properly, it's not going to help. So broadband plan has started. There's already people being connected. There's about 1.1 million homes need to be connected through this, where the commercial providers are not providing the service. And in Meath, that equates to just under 20,000 homes actually, so about 78% of premises, be it schools, businesses, farms, or just homes, they're already being covered. So the 20,000 will be connected through, there's 10 identified connection points. So that work is underway at the moment to identify the connection points, to put in place the infrastructure, and then to start connecting people. So I suppose it's something that's going to take a little bit of time, but it has started. There are homes already being connected, and depending on COVID-19 and how things progress, I suppose the sooner that we can get more homes connected, the better. And there's a target that we want to try and start reaching, and even with COVID levels and restrictions, that infrastructural work is still happening because it's seen as critical work. It's seen as being absolutely necessary. So there's lots of parts in the plan itself, but it's about providing that flexibility. And I think for me, in my own work environment, I'm at home at the moment, as you can see in my salubrious surroundings, but I think it's important that you have that ability to be able to engage with people, to still meet face to face. If you're new to a company, if you're young, if you're just out of school, if you're just out of college, the idea that you would go straight to working online and not having that engagement, so I think from the engagement that we've had with the DIBEC, whether it's the chambers, whether it's the different organizations, it's about flexibility, and it's not forcing people to be at home 5 days a week. It's giving people those options.
And it is, and I think myself and what I'm seeing, I think it's going to be very much a hybrid approach to work coming forward, that we do need people on site to be able to build up their experience, to and there's certain jobs where it just wouldn't be possible. And I suppose as employers ourselves, and for a lot of people on the group here today are managing teams of people, what do we as employers need to be prepared for? What do we need to do to get ready for this new legislation that's going to come through?
I think going back to Valerie's point, it's about communicating and engaging with the teams that you're working with. And, you don't want a situation where you have a lot of people taking cases to the WRC or having to refer back to legislation. You want this to work on a mutual basis, so that people, so that employers and employees come to an arrangement that works, that acknowledges family life, that acknowledges that, people can work in different spaces. So I think first and foremost, if you're a company and you have employees, that you reach out and that you kind of talk through the fact that this is coming down the line, that these options are going to be available where they maybe weren't before. And I think given the last year and how things have transpired, companies will have already seen how things work, what works better. In some areas productivity has increased because people are more determined to show that they're not at home on the couch watching TV, that they're actually working. So I think there's probably already a sense among employers and employees as to how things will work. So I think it's just about communicating that, and then putting a more formal structure in place, and making sure that everybody is comfortable with how that works. And then obviously the bigger piece of work that has to be done around scoping of the hubs, how that will then work. There will be financial supports through government to invest in the infrastructure for the hubs, but also in the virtual and the digital technologies that are needed as part of this as well. So I think it's about talking that through and being prepared.
Yeah, and it is. And I suppose for people as well who are, they're maybe on their own, feel I'm managing a couple of people, I have a small business, I have to take all this on by myself. You don't. It's really important to engage with your team. But, do you envisage that there will also be supports there to help businesses for this transition into a new way of working as well?
There will. So there'll be financial supports. So whether it's adapting to the physical environment, or whether it's, moving things online, whether it's buying laptops, whether it's having to invest in technology, whether it's making sure that you have all of that, all of what you need to be able to work remotely or in this new kind of a hybrid environment. So there will be those financial supports available as well. And it's about engaging, with the chamber, with the local Leo, with the council as well, who are actively, and all of this remote working plan has been thought through, but following consultation right across the board with all of these different agencies and organisations and our local authorities and businesses. So it's to keep in contact, and this type of a platform is a really useful way of doing that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I suppose the other area with women in business, our International Women's Day coming up next week, career in politics and being a woman in politics, you know, and the same as we would listen to Valerie there and in fintech, you know, we don't see, and we would like to see more women engaging in politics and younger girls coming up seeing this as an opportunity in a career. And I have to say it's brilliant what you have succeeded in and what you have achieved, you know, since 2013 to now, and as the Minister for Justice. That's really giving a fantastic role model for younger girls coming through school think, well, that could be me as well in the future. But there is a gap currently in the political system and the gender gap. What would you like to see happening to bridge that gap?
So I think we just need to keep breaking down the barriers that exist, and the barriers that are there now are maybe different to what was there years ago. You know, we see the first female minister was Countess Markievicz back in 1919. The next minister was 1979 at Maura Geoghegan Quinn. So I think the barriers then were simply the fact that women weren't encouraged or let in many instances get involved in politics. They were there behind the scenes. They were the engine of most of what was going on, but just not given that opportunity to put themselves forward. And you had a lot of very determined women who really put themselves forward and started to break through that ceiling. And the more you see women in these types of positions, whether it's in politics, whether it's, you know, any type of environment, it encourages other women. So I think you know, the visibility is extremely important to be able to show that this is a career and this is a path that is available to me. One of the elements of my work that I love, and obviously I'm Minister for Justice, but I'm a TD for Meath East, so I love engaging with students and schools. And while it's happening remotely at the moment, you know, I think there's a real interest there from younger girls as well. They're interested in what's going on around them, how it's impacting their lives. And I think they can now start to see themselves as somebody that can actually make a change where they don't like what's happening or where they don't feel that something is going in the direction that they want. So it is really about just that encouragement, and you know, the more you see somebody in a particular position, you're more likely to think, well, that can be me someday. And in fairness, online and social media, while there can be a negative element to it, there's a really positive element where you can actually talk and engage with people in a way that we haven't done before. And younger people in particular are able to use that platform in a way that they never have before. We have introduced gender quotas, I suppose, in politics in Ireland, which some people agree with, some people don't. It has made a difference in a very short space of time, in saying that our public representation in Leinster House and in the Oireachtas is only 23%. So we still have a long way to go. But you know, we're slowly getting there, but we still have a way to go.
Brilliant. And Minister, I really appreciate taking time out to share this information with us this morning, and I'd like to wish you the very best of luck with your future arrival, and enjoying your statutory maternity leave as well, which the same as every other public servant. I'm delighted.
It's not there yet. And when I spoke about the barriers, I mean, that's one of them. You need to be able to say to whether it's a politician or not, that you can take time off and that you can care for your baby, and obviously that it's not going to impact on your career. And I know that's not always easy, but I think we need to be putting as many supports in place, whether you're working in the private or the public sector, to enable you to do that. And those type of barriers in itself being broken down will help women get into more areas maybe where they haven't done in the past. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.